No one tells you. It's okay to say no. Welcome back to No One Tells You This. I'm your host, MacKenzie Simmons, and I'm so excited you tuned in as I take you on a journey to unlock the secrets behind early career nursing. Make sure to check out our most recent episode all about nursing advocacy featuring Ryan Moran. You don't want to miss it. Today's episode is one that I wish someone had sat me down and told me early in my nursing career. The fact that it's okay to say no. And honestly, not only is it okay, it's necessary. This episode, we will be taking a deep dive into self-care and talking about some sensitive subjects for many healthcare workers. Our goal is to remind you that it is okay to say yes to yourself so you can fill up your cup, because you cannot pour from an empty one. I hope that you understand the importance of real self-care and that yes, it is okay to say no. Let's get into the episode. For many healthcare workers, like myself, we are high achieving and ambitious go-getters. We want to get involved in everything and find ourselves having a difficult time saying no. Whether it's saying no to picking up the extra shift when the unit's short, not being able to go out with your friends after work, not staying late after the worst shift of your life, taking on a new role in a committee or council, taking an unsafe assignment. You may feel guilty for saying no, even though you're saying yes to yourself. I'm here to remind you and tell you that it is okay to say no, even when everyone around you says the opposite. You don't need to feel guilty or as though you're letting your team or your unit down. In nursing, saying yes is almost always expected. Yes to picking up extra, yes to staying late, yes to helping. Always helping. Because that's what a good nurse does, right? You don't want to leave your team short. You don't want your patients to suffer. You don't want to be that nurse who says no. So you keep saying yes, even when you're exhausted, even when you haven't eaten, even when your body and mind are completely drained. And at first, it feels like the right thing to do, right? You feel dependable, needed, even appreciated. But over time, that constant yes starts to cost you something. And that's why it is not okay to keep saying yes when you really mean no. Let's talk about the guilt, because it's real. When staffing is bad and your phone lights up asking you, please, please come in, you feel it, that pull, that voice in your head that says, they need help. What if it's unsafe? I really should go in. That extra money would be worth it, right? But here's the truth that's hard to accept. You cannot fix chronic understaffing by sacrificing yourself. That's not your responsibility. And more importantly, it's not your burden to carry alone. Unfortunately, there is a shortage of nurses state and nationwide. However, do not believe the lie that overexpending yourself will fix that. Instead, it feels leaving you drained and oftentimes unsafe practice. If you're like me, you loved getting involved. You find yourself always saying yes to absolutely everything, whether that be last minute plans with friends, picking up an additional shift, saying yes to yet another committee or responsibility. But at the end of the day, when you're making time for yourself, probably never. When you never say no, it starts to show. You feel physically exhausted even on your days off, emotionally numb with patients, irritated with coworkers, friends, and even family. You become disconnected from why you became a nurse. And eventually, you don't just hate the job, you lose parts of yourself. That's burnout. And it doesn't happen because you didn't care enough. It happens because you cared too much without boundaries. The truth is, many nurses and healthcare workers don't even realize they are in the midst of burnout until they're 10 feet deep and feel like no one cares that they're stuck. Burnout doesn't always show up loudly. Sometimes it's a quiet voice telling you that you'll never be enough, that you aren't cut out to be a good nurse, that no one cares about you. But that's just not true. Don't believe the lie. However, when you continue to bear too much weight and say yes, despite feeling overextended, you will get burnout fast. But here's the truth no one says out loud. You were never meant to carry everything. So I'm here to tell you that it is okay to say no. We just need to reframe it. Saying no is not selfish. Saying no is patient safety. Because an exhausted nurse misses things, has slower reaction times, struggles to think critically. And that's not a personal failure. It's human. It's actually a system failure. You deserve to be well enough to provide safe care. You cannot take care of others unless you're well cared for. So let's stand up together and start saying no. Let's talk about what self-care actually looks like in nursing. Because I think we've all been sold a version that doesn't quite match reality. We hear things like, take a bubble bath, light a candle, go for a walk. And yes, those things are great. And I honestly love them myself. But let's be real. When you've just worked 12 plus hours, skipped your lunch, held a patient's hand while crying, dealt with short staffing, and charted until your eyes blurred, a bubble bath isn't fixing your burnout. So what does self-care really look like? Well, it's unique to each person, but the important thing is that it allows you to refuel and fill up your cup. Real self-care starts with saying no. Not the easy kind, the uncomfortable kind. No, I'm sorry, I can't pick up that shift. I'm not staying late today. And then comes the hardest part. Not over-explaining it. Not justifying it, just saying it. Because every time you say yes, when you mean no, you're borrowing energy from your future self. Now, this doesn't mean you say no all the time. It means you set clear boundaries to protect yourself from burnout and overexhaustion. Recently, I felt the effects of burnout pretty heavily. I found that I was not happy. I was short with those I loved and felt a voice telling me I should just give up. I realized I had been overexpending myself and couldn't remember the last time I had a true day off to actually refuel. I wasn't spent cleaning or running errands. It was hard to come to terms with, but yes, I was burnout. I began hating myself and even nursing. A voice in the back of my head kept telling me that I was a terrible nurse, terrible person, that I should quit. I wasn't myself, and other people noticed. Once I realized that I was not okay, I started prioritizing recharging myself, and that meant saying no. It was hard, really hard actually. I had to say no to my unit, my friends, even boys I liked, so that I could properly recharge. Each person has to do a little self-discovery for self-care. Often we think that self-care has to fit into a particular box, and there's specific ways to recharge. That's just not true. For me, I absolutely love reading, journaling, running, and Pilates. These activities allow me to feel relaxed and ready to accomplish any task my way and be the best nurse that I can be. You may find that beach days, sleeping in, lifting weights is what fuels you. I encourage you to find hobbies that help you to fully recharge. However, this is not enough. Real self-care starts with setting boundaries, becoming okay with saying no, being honest about burnout, and finding ways to truly rest. And yes, doing all the things is great, and I myself love getting involved and saying yes. You definitely should, and I encourage you to take new opportunities and not be afraid to say yes to the scary things or challenges. Yet, when you continue to say yes without prioritizing your own health, you are letting yourself down in the end. So start saying yes to yourself as well, because at the end of the day, no one will care about your health, your safety, and your well-being as much as you. Real self-care is resting without earning it. Not saying, oh, I'll just rest after I catch up, after I fix everything, but instead saying, I feel tired, so I need to rest. And that's it. Because in nursing, there's this unspoken belief that exhaustion is normal. But just because it's common doesn't mean it's healthy. I found myself feeling as though I need to complete so many tasks before I have earned my rest time. I find myself measuring my self-care time just as I would my patient's intake and output. But that's not fair to myself, my friends, or even my patients. By properly recharging, I know I can be a better nurse, a better friend, a better daughter, a better sister, and a better person. Real self-care is mentally clocking out when your shift is over. And yep, it's hard. Not replaying every interaction, not questioning every decision, not carrying every patient outcome home with you. Because if you try to emotionally bring every shift home, you will always feel like you're drowning. And no one can function like that long term. It's just not feasible. Real self-care is actually taking a break. Make sure you have time to breathe and process throughout your shift, and even your life. Are you actually making time to reflect and to eat? You don't get any bonus points for skipping lunch. It's only going to lead you to feeling exhausted, fatigued, and not as apt to respond to changes. I used to feel like I needed to skip lunch because my patients just needed me. The unit was so busy. But in reality, I was only going slower, risking patient safety and feeling fatigued. That's why I tell everybody, prioritize your break because you earned it. Your patients want you to rest so that you can properly care for them. Because who wants an overtired and brain-fogged nurse caring for them? Now, the truth is, saying no and setting boundaries is hard. Actually, super hard. It may be one of the hardest things you'll do. Boundaries definitely don't feel good at first. It will be uncomfortable. But you may be asking yourself, will it be worth it? 100%. Boundaries feel awkward. They do feel selfish. They feel wrong until they don't. And then it slowly starts to feel peaceful because boundaries aren't about pushing people away. They're about making sure you don't disappear in the process of taking care of everyone else. They're making sure that you feel your best no matter what, and that you can be the best person and the best nurse possible. Real self-care is admitting when you're not okay, not pushing through silently, not pretending you're fine when you're running on empty. And it's totally okay to not be okay at times. Yes, but you have to admit it. We've all been there. And yes, it's hard to admit. And when you do finally become okay with admitting you need help, that you need a break, that you need adequate time to recharge, is when real and fulfilling self-care takes place. Because burnout doesn't get better by ignoring it. It only gets worse. Quietly, until it's not so quiet anymore. So, if no one's told you this before, let me say it clearly. Real self-care in nursing is not about doing more. It's about doing less of what drains you and more about what protects you. It is saying no. It's resting. It's setting boundaries. It's leaving work at work, even when it feels hard, especially when it feels hard, because you cannot pour from an empty cup, and you were never meant to. Take care of yourself like your life depends on it, because in a lot of ways, it does, and your patients will thank you. No one tells you it's okay to say no, but now you know. I'll see you in the next episode.